When Rockstar Carter Hayes discovered his stylist had a dinner date, his response was immediate and possessive. Cancel your plans tonight. What started as jealous demand became a confession that would change everything. 2 years of hidden feelings, one explosive moment, and a love story that proved sometimes the best things happen when you stop running from what scares you most. Before we dive in, we need your help. We're on a mission to hit 500 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. If this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're listening from. Your support means everything. Now let's see what happens when a rock star finally admits what his heart's been screaming for 2 years. The bass reverberated through the walls of the Staples Center backstage, making the hangers on Bella Turner's clothing rack tremble in rhythm. She adjusted the leather jacket one more time, checking the silver studs she'd meticulously placed along the collar. Carter Hayes didn't do subtle, and after 2 years as his personal stylist, Bella had learned to walk the fine line between edgy and over the top. "Bella!" His voice cut through the pre-show chaos like a guitar riff through silence. She didn't turn immediately, instead smoothing her hands over the black jeans she'd paired with a crimson silk top. Let him wait. God knows she'd waited for him enough times. "I know you hear me, Turner." Now she turned, finding Carter leaning against the doorframe of his dressing room, all 6 feet 3 inches of tattooed trouble. His dark hair fell across his forehead, still damp from the shower, and he wore nothing but low-slung jeans that showed off the V of muscles disappearing below his waistband. The snake tattoo that coiled up his left arm seemed to move in the dim backstage lighting. "I'm working," Bella said, turning back to her rack. "You know, that thing some of us do?" "Funny." He pushed off the frame and walked toward her, bare feet silent on the concrete floor. "I need you to look at something." "Carter, the show starts in 45 minutes. Whatever it is, it's important." She sighed, finally facing him fully. His green eyes, usually dancing with mischief or blazing with performance adrenaline, looked serious, almost vulnerable. That was new. "What's wrong?" "Come here." He grabbed her wrist, not rough but insistent, and pulled her into his dressing room. The door clicked shut behind them, muffling the chaos outside. The room smelled like his cologne, something expensive and dark that probably cost more than her rent. Clothes were strewn everywhere, despite her best efforts to keep him organized. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat on the vanity next to his phone, which was lit up with notifications he'd been ignoring. "Carter, seriously, I don't have time for—" "You have plans tonight." Bella froze. It wasn't a question, her phone. He must have seen her phone when she'd left it on the makeup counter earlier. "That's none of your business." "The hell it isn't." He moved closer, crowding her space in a way that made her pulse kick up. "Who is he?" "Again, none of your business." She tried to step around him, but he mirrored her movement, blocking her path. "Move, Carter." "Some finance bro named Derek." "Really, Bella?" "That's your type now?" Heat flooded her cheeks, embarrassment mixing with anger. "You went through my phone?" "It was open. I saw the notification." He ran a hand through his hair, making it stick up in ways that shouldn't look as good as they did. "Cancel it." "Excuse me?" "Cancel your plans tonight." His voice dropped lower, rougher. "Stay." "Stay? For what? To watch you party with models and actresses like you do after every show?" She laughed, but it came out bitter. "Hard pass." Something flashed in his eyes. "That's not... Those parties aren't what? Fun? Wild? Exactly what a rock star does?" She pushed past him, needing distance, needing air that didn't taste like his cologne and bad decisions. "I have a life outside of dressing you." "Carter. Shocking, I know." "Bella." He caught her arm, spinning her back around. They were chest to chest now, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his green eyes, could feel the heat radiating off his skin. "Don't go." "Why?" The word came out as a whisper. "Give me one good reason why I should cancel my plans to stay here and watch you ignore me. The second someone prettier walks in the room. Because I don't want you with him." The confession seemed to surprise him as much as it did her. His jaw clenched, and for a moment he looked like he might take it back, but then his grip on her arm tightened, just slightly. I don't want you with anyone. Her heart slammed against her ribs. 2 years. 2 years of careful professionalism, of swallowing feelings that had no business existing, of watching him with other women and pretending it didn't carve her up inside. You don't get to do this, she said, hating how her voice shook. You don't get to act like you care when it's convenient for you. It's not. A knock on the door interrupted him. Hayes, 15 minutes! The stage manager's voice boomed through the wood. Carter's eyes never left hers. We're not done talking about this. Yeah, we are. Bella pulled free from his grip and headed for the door. Good luck with the show. She made it 3 steps into the hallway before his voice stopped her cold. I'll cancel it. She turned. What? He stood in the doorway, backlit by the dressing room lights, looking like every fantasy and warning her mother had ever given her about bad boys. The after party. If you stay, I'll cancel it. Carter. No models. No actresses, no party. He took a step toward her, then another, until they were in that dangerous space again. Just you and me. Stay. Someone rushed past them with a garment bag, shouting about a wardrobe emergency. The bass line shifted to something heavier, signaling the opening band's final song. In 10 minutes, Carter would be on that stage, performing for 20,000 screaming fans. He'd be untouchable, larger than life, the fantasy that sold out stadiums worldwide. But right now, in this narrow hallway that smelled like concrete and dreams, he was just a man asking her to stay. Why? She asked again, needing to hear it, needing him to say something real. His hand came up, cupping her jaw with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the intensity in his eyes. Because watching you walk away is harder than any performance I've ever given. Because the thought of you smiling at some other guy the way you smile at me makes me want to punch walls. Because, he stopped, swallowing hard. Because I'm tired of pretending I don't want you. The admission hung between them, heavy and electric. Bella's mind raced through 1,000 reasons to walk away, to protect herself, to maintain the professional boundaries that had kept her sane for 2 years. But her heart, her stupid, reckless heart, was already responding to the vulnerability in his voice, the way his thumb traced her cheekbone like she was something precious. Hayes, now! The stage manager sounded frantic. Carter ignored him, his focus entirely on Bella. Stay. It wasn't a demand this time. It was a plea. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Derek probably confirming their reservation. Safe, stable Derek with his nice smile and normal job and complete lack of tattoos or emotional baggage. Carter's jaw tightened, but he didn't move, didn't push. He was giving her the choice, and somehow that made it harder. I have to go, she said, watching something in his expression shudder. You have a show. Right. He stepped back, and the loss of his warmth felt like a physical blow. The show. He turned and walked back into his dressing room, and Bella stood there in the hallway, frozen, as her phone buzzed again. Through the wall, she could hear the opening band's final chord, the roar of the crowd, the countdown beginning. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Derek's message was cheerful, excited. Can't wait to see you tonight. Reservation confirmed for 8 p.m. She typed out a reply, deleted it, typed another. The stage manager ran past, shouting into his headset. Someone dropped a cymbal, the crash echoing through the narrow space. In his dressing room, Carter would be pulling on the outfit she'd chosen. The vintage Rolling Stones tee under the leather jacket, the rings on his fingers that caught the stage lights just right. He'd check his hair one last time, take a shot of whiskey for courage even though he'd never admit he needed it. And then he'd walk out there and own that stage like he was born on it. And she could go to dinner with Derek. Nice. Normal Derek who'd never make her heart race or her hands shake, or her professionalism crumble with a single word. The opening notes of Carter's first song crashed through the venue. The crowd's roar was deafening, worshipful. Bella closed her eyes, thumb hovering over her phone screen. She thought about Carter's face when he'd asked her to stay, the way his voice had cracked just slightly on the word want, the vulnerability he'd shown her, the real him beneath the Rockstar persona. She thought about 2 years of almost moments, stolen glances, accidental touches that lasted too long. 2 years of wondering what if. Her thumb moved across the screen. The message sent, and Bella Turner, who prided herself on making smart, professional decisions, did possibly the dumbest thing of her career. She walked toward the stage entrance, past the security guard who waved her through, past the equipment cases and tangled cables, until she could see Carter in the wings, guitar in hand, waiting for his cue. He hadn't seen her yet. He was in performance mode, head bowed, fingers moving over the strings in a silent warm-up. The lights would hit him in 30 seconds, and he'd explode onto that stage with the energy that had made him a legend before his 28th birthday. Bella pulled out her phone one more time, typing quickly before she could change her mind. I stayed. She hit send and watched as Carter's phone, tucked into his guitar tech's bag just off stage, lit up with her message. The stage lights changed. His cue. Carter's head snapped up and he started forward, then froze. His eyes found hers across the chaos, and the look on his face. Surprise, hope, something that looked dangerously like joy, made her pulse race. The stage manager was shouting. The crowd was screaming, and Carter Hayes stood paralyzed, staring at his stylist like she'd just rewritten his entire world. Hayes, go! He went because the show always went on, but as he hit his mark and the lights exploded around him, as he launched into the opening riff that sent 20,000 people into a frenzy, his eyes found Bella's in the darkness of the wings, and he smiled. Not the practiced Rockstar smile he gave the cameras or the fans. This was real, unguarded, and so full of promise that Bella had to grip the equipment case beside her to stay steady. What the hell had she just done? The answer came with the next buzz of her phone. A message from Derek. No problem. Rain check? And another from Carter sent between verses. After the show, you and me, no running. Bella watched him own the stage, watched 20,000 people scream his name, watched him be everything the world thought he was. But she'd seen something else tonight. She'd seen the man behind the legend, the vulnerability beneath the swagger, and she'd made her choice. Now, she just had to figure out what came next. The final chord rang out, and Carter threw his guitar pick into the crowd, watching it disappear into a sea of reaching hands. Sweat dripped down his temples. His shirt was soaked through, and his ears rang with the feedback of 20,000 voices screaming his name. Usually, this was his favorite moment, the high that made every grueling tour bus ride worth it. Tonight, all he could think about was the woman waiting in the wings. Thank you, Los Angeles. You've been incredible. He raised his arms, soaking in one final wave of applause, then turned and walked off stage, his heart pounding harder than it had during the entire 90-minute set. Bella stood exactly where he'd last seen her, arms crossed, watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. His guitar tech reached for his instrument, but Carter waved him off, setting it down himself, never taking his eyes off her. Good show, she said, her voice carefully neutral. You stayed. I sent you a message, you saw it. I did. He grabbed a towel from the stack near the curtain, wiping the sweat from his face and neck. Wasn't sure you'd still be here when I got off. I keep my word, Hayes. The use of his last name stung, but he deserved it. He'd spent 2 years keeping her at arm's length, pretending the electricity between them was just in his head, that he didn't look for her first thing every morning and think about her last thing every night. My dressing room? He gestured down the hallway. She hesitated, and he could see the doubt creeping in, all the very reasonable concerns about what this meant, what happened next, whether he was worth the risk. Please, he added, and the word felt foreign on his tongue. Carter Hayes didn't beg, didn't ask. He took what he wanted and apologized later if necessary. But Bella Turner had never been something he could just take. She nodded once and relief flooded through him. They walked in silence, weaving through the backstage crew who were already breaking down equipment, past other band members who called out congratulations that Carter barely heard. Every nerve in his body was focused on the woman beside him, on the jasmine scent of her perfume cutting through the sweat and electrical smell of the venue. His dressing room door clicked shut behind them, and suddenly the space felt too small, the air too thick. Bella stayed near the door, maintaining distance, while Carter moved to the vanity and grabbed the whiskey bottle. "Want some?" He held it up. "I'm good." He took a swig straight from the bottle, needing the burn to ground him, to give him courage for a conversation he should have had 2 years ago. "I meant what I said before the show." "Which part?" "You said a lot of things." "Fair." He set the bottle down and turned to face her fully. "All of it, but especially the part about not wanting you with anyone else." "That's not—" She stopped, shook her head. "You can't just decide you want me when it's convenient for you, Carter. That's not how this works." "You think this is convenient?" He laughed, but it came out rough. "Bella, you've been driving me crazy for 2 years. Do you know how many times I've almost kissed you? How many times I've had to walk away because staying close to you and not touching you was actual torture? Then why didn't you?" The question came out sharp, laced with 2 years of frustration. "Why all the other women? Why the parties and the—" "Because I'm a coward." The confession came out before he could stop it. "Because you're not some groupie I can have for a night and forget about. You're real and permanent, and you see through all my shit, and that terrifies me." Bella's eyes widened slightly, her arms uncrossing. "Carter, let me finish, please." He took a step closer, then another, watching her carefully for any signs she wanted him to stop. "I've built a career on being untouchable, the guy who doesn't get attached, who doesn't need anyone. And then you walked into that first fitting with your clipboard and your opinions and your complete lack of awe at my supposedly legendary status, and I was gone. You didn't act like it. I know, I hid it. Told myself it was professional, that you were just doing your job, that the way you laughed at my jokes didn't make me feel like I could conquer the world. I dated other women, through parties, did everything I could to prove to myself that you weren't different." He was close enough now to see the gold flecks in her brown eyes, close enough to smell her perfume mixing with his cologne. "But you are different, Bella. You've always been different." She swallowed hard, her chest rising and falling with measured breaths. "And Derek, you saw one text message and decided to blow up my date. That's not caring about me, Carter. That's possession." "You're right." The admission cost him, but he forced it out anyway. "It was a dick move, and I'm sorry. But seeing his name on your phone, knowing you were going to smile at him, laugh with him, maybe let him kiss you goodnight." His jaw clenched. "I couldn't do it. Couldn't pretend anymore that I was fine with you being anyone else's. I'm not yours to claim. I know that too, which is why I'm asking, not telling." He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away, and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Give me a chance, a real one. Let me take you out, show you I can be more than just the guy on stage. Your reputation? Fuck my reputation." The words came out fierce. "Let them write whatever they want. Let the tabloids have a field day. I don't care anymore, Bella. I'm tired of living my life for everyone else." She bit her lip, and he had to physically restrain himself from closing the distance between them and doing what he'd wanted to do for 2 years. But this was her choice. Had to be. "One date?" she said finally. "But not tonight." Disappointment warred with hope. "Why not tonight?" "Because you're high on adrenaline and sweat, and I'm not making this decision in a dressing room that smells like whiskey and cologne." She smiled slightly, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Besides, if we're doing this, I want you to actually plan something. Show me you meant what you said about trying." A grin spread across his face. "I can do that." "And Carter?" She stepped closer, rising on her toes until her lips were near his ear. "If you sleep with anyone else between now and then, the deal's off. I don't share." Heat shot through him at her proximity, at the possessive edge in her voice that matched his own. "Wouldn't dream of it." She pulled back, leaving him wanting, which he suspected was exactly her intention. "Good, now go shower. You smell like a gym." He laughed, the sound genuine, free from the performance energy that usually colored everything he did. "Yes, ma'am." She headed for the door, and panic seized him briefly. "Bella." "Yeah?" Tomorrow night, that's when I want to take you out. Pushy. Determined. He crossed the room in 3 strides, catching her hand before she could leave. I've wasted 2 years. I'm not wasting any more time. She studied him for a long moment, and he let her look, let her see everything he usually kept hidden. The vulnerability, the want, the terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, she felt the same way. Tomorrow, she agreed. 7 p.m. And wear something that's not a band tee. Demanding. You have no idea. She squeezed his hand once, then slipped out the door, leaving him alone with a grin he couldn't wipe off his face, and the realization that he was in way deeper than he'd ever admitted. His phone buzzed. A group text from the band asking about the after-party. Carter typed out a quick response. Cancelled. See you all at tomorrow's sound check. The replies came fast and confused, but he ignored them, instead opening a new message to Bella. Where should I pick you up? Her response came quickly. My apartment. I'll text you the address. And Carter, don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it, he typed back, then added before he could overthink it. Thank you for staying. The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, ask me tomorrow if I regret it. He would. And he'd spend every moment between now and then making sure the answer was no. The shower was ice cold, but it did nothing to cool the fire in his veins. Tomorrow. He had until tomorrow to plan the perfect date for a woman who'd seen him at his worst, and somehow still gave him a chance. No pressure. He was toweling off when his phone rang. Marcus, his manager, probably ready to lecture him about canceling the party. Carter almost didn't answer, then figured he might as well get the lecture over with. Before you start, what the hell, Hayes? You canceled the party? Do you know how many industry people were expecting to be there? They'll get over it. This isn't like you. What's going on? Carter wrapped the towel around his waist and stared at his reflection in the mirror. 2 years of careful distance, of keeping people at arm's length, of building walls so high no one could see the real him. And then Bella Turner had walked into his life and started dismantling them brick by brick without even trying. I'm trying something new, Marcus. I'm trying to not be an asshole. Silence, then cautiously. This is about a woman. Yeah. The stylist? Bella? Carter's grip tightened on the phone. Yeah. Finally. Marcus sounded relieved rather than angry. Took you long enough. Everyone's been placing bets on when you'd finally make a move. Everyone knew? Hayes, you look at her like she hung the moon. Of course everyone knew. A pause. Don't screw this up. She's good for you. Has been since day 1. I know. Do you? Because your track record with women. This is different. She's different. Carter cut him off, surprised by the certainty in his own voice. I'm not going to screw this up. Good, because if you do, I'm hiring her as my stylist. Can't lose talent like that. Marcus was joking, but Carter felt a surge of possessiveness anyway. When's the date? Tomorrow. Where are you taking her? That was the million-dollar question, wasn't it? Bella had seen him in every high-end restaurant in L.A., had been to the exclusive clubs where he partied after shows. She'd been adjacent to his famous life for 2 years. Taking her somewhere in that world would just prove he couldn't see her as anything but part of his career. I have an idea, Carter said slowly, a plan forming, but I'm going to need your help. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of sound checks, interviews, and preparation. Carter went through the motions, performing for the cameras and fans, but his mind was elsewhere. On Bella, on the plan taking shape, on the terrifying possibility that he might actually get this right. By 6:30 p.m. the next evening, he was standing outside Bella's apartment building in Silver Lake, dressed in dark jeans and a simple black button-down, no band logos in sight. His hands were sweating, which was ridiculous. He'd performed for stadium crowds, done interviews with hostile journalists, navigated the music industry's shark-infested waters. A date shouldn't make him nervous. But this wasn't just a date. This was Bella. He pressed the buzzer for apartment 3B. Right on time, her voice crackled through the speaker. Come on up. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor felt eternal. Carter checked his reflection in the brushed metal doors, ran a hand through his hair, then forced himself to stop fidgeting. She'd said yes. She was giving him a chance. All he had to do was not mess it up. Simple, right? Her door was already open when he reached it, and the sight of her stole whatever breath he'd managed to catch. She wore a sundress in deep blue that hugged her curves and showed off legs he'd spent 2 years trying not to stare at. Her dark hair fell in waves over her shoulders, and her makeup was subtle, natural, making her look soft and touchable, and absolutely devastating. "You clean up nice, Hayes." She grabbed a small purse from the table near the door. "Band logo free and everything." "You said no band tees. I'm a good listener. First time for everything." She locked her door and turned to find him still staring. "What? You're beautiful." The words came out without filter, raw and honest. "I mean, you're always beautiful, but tonight you're—" He stopped, realizing he was rambling like a teenager. "Sorry, you just took my breath away." Color bloomed in her cheeks. "Smooth talker. Only when I mean it." He offered his arm. "Ready?" She hesitated only a second before linking her arm through his. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." They took the elevator down in comfortable silence, but Carter was hyper-aware of everywhere they touched, of the warmth of her hand on his arm, of the jasmine scent of her perfume. When they stepped out onto the street, she stopped. "Is that—" She stared at the vehicle parked at the curb. "Carter, is that a 1967 Mustang? You know your cars." "My dad restored them. Had a 68 he worked on every weekend." She walked around the vintage convertible, running her hand along the gleaming black paint. "This is beautiful. Borrowed it from a collector friend. Thought you might appreciate it more than showing up in a limo." She looked at him, something soft in her expression. You remembered. He had. From a conversation 6 months ago when they'd been stuck in traffic after a show. She'd mentioned her dad's love of classic cars, the smell of motor oil, and summer evenings spent in the garage. Carter had filed it away with every other detail she'd ever shared, hoarding them like treasure. "I remember everything you tell me," he said, opening the passenger door for her. The drive took them out of the city toward Malibu, the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Bella didn't ask where they were going, just let the wind tangle her hair and sang along softly to the classic rock station Carter had tuned in. When he finally pulled off the highway onto a private road, her eyebrows rose. "Carter, trust me." The road wound up into the hills, ending at a secluded overlook. Below them, the Pacific stretched endless and glittering in the dying light. Carter killed the engine and got out, moving quickly to help Bella from the car. "This is private property," she said, looking around at the undeveloped land. "Belongs to a friend. He owed me a favor." Carter opened the trunk and pulled out a blanket and a picnic basket. "Come on." He led her to the perfect spot, where the view opened up to show miles of coastline. The blanket went down, and then he was unpacking the basket, pulling out containers of food from her favorite Thai place across from the venue where they'd first met. "You're kidding." Bella knelt on the blanket, watching him. "Is that pad Thai from Sam's kitchen? With extra peanuts, just how you like it, and their coconut curry and mango sticky rice for dessert." He pulled out plates, utensils, even the cheap napkins the restaurant always included. "I figured we've had enough fancy restaurants. Thought we'd try something different." She was quiet for a long moment, and Carter felt panic creep in. Had he miscalculated? Was this too casual, not romantic enough? Then she smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Carter Hayes, you absolute sap. Is that a good thing? It's perfect." She reached out, cupping his jaw. "This whole thing is perfect. Thank you." Relief crashed over him. "Yeah?" "Yeah." She pulled him close and kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. "Now feed me before I change my mind about you." He laughed and served the food, and they ate as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in impossible colors. They talked about everything and nothing, her childhood in Arizona, his early days playing dive bars, their shared love of terrible action movies and their complete inability to keep plants alive. I killed a cactus once, Bella admitted, licking peanut sauce from her thumb in a way that made Carter temporarily forget how to breathe. A cactus. They're supposed to be unkillable. I killed 3 in a row, finally gave up and just started buying fake ones. The big one in your dressing room? Fake as my public persona. He grinned. But don't tell anyone. Ruins my credibility. Your secret's safe with me. She leaned back on her hands, looking up at the stars starting to appear overhead. This is nice, being away from the chaos. You don't like the chaos? Sometimes I do. The energy of it, the creativity, watching you perform. That part's incredible. But the rest of it? She shrugged. The parties, the hangers-on, the people who only care about what you can do for them, that part's exhausting. Is that why you almost didn't stay last night? She was quiet for a moment. Partly, I've watched you cycle through so many people, Carter. Women who wanted the Rockstar fantasy, friends who disappeared when you stopped being useful. I didn't want to be another person in that rotation. You could never be just another person. He shifted closer, taking her hand. Bella, you're the only real thing in my life, the only person who tells me when I'm being an idiot who doesn't care about the fame or the money. You see me, the actual me, and you still stuck around. You make it sound like you're some kind of monster without the persona. Maybe I am. You're not. She squeezed his hand. You're talented and passionate and sometimes kind of a disaster, but you're not a monster. You're just human, Carter. And that's what scares you, isn't it? Being seen as human instead of legendary. He stared at her, feeling stripped bare in the best and most terrifying way. How do you do that? Do what? See right through me. Practice. She smiled. 2 years of watching you, remember? I've had plenty of time to figure you out. And what have you figured out? That you're worth the risk. She moved closer until they were sharing breath, until he could see the stars reflected in her eyes. That underneath all the walls and the swagger, you're just a guy who wants to be loved for who you really is, not what you can do on a stage. Bella. And I think I want to be the one to love you. The confession hung between them, brave and vulnerable. If you'll let me. Carter's heart slammed against his ribs. No one had ever said anything like that to him before, not his family, who'd stopped understanding him the moment he got famous, not the endless parade of people who wanted something from him. No one had ever wanted just him. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. The real relationship thing. I'm probably going to mess up. Probably, she agreed. But I'm not exactly an expert either. We'll figure it out together. Together. He tested the word, found he liked the taste of it. I can do together. Then stop talking and kiss me already. He did, pulling her close and pouring 2 years of want and frustration and hope into the kiss. She melted against him, her hands tangling in his hair. And Carter thought that this, right here, was worth more than any sold-out stadium or platinum record. This was real. She was real. And for the first time in his life, Carter Hayes was exactly where he wanted to be. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for the paparazzi to catch on. Bella was walking out of a coffee shop near the venue. Carter's leather jacket draped over her shoulders because he'd insisted she take it when she complained about being cold that morning, when the first camera flashed. Bella, is that Carter Hayes' jacket? Are you two dating? How long has this been going on? She kept walking, phone pressed to her ear as Carter talked her through it. Just keep moving. Don't say anything. Marcus is sending security. This is insane. Welcome to my world, babe. She could hear the smile in his voice, but also the tension. I'm sorry. I should have warned you it would be like this. You did warn me. She ducked into the waiting car Marcus had sent, slamming the door on the shouting photographers. I just didn't think they'd care this much about a stylist. They care because you're with me. And because, he paused, because I haven't exactly been subtle about how I feel. That was an understatement. In 3 weeks, Carter had been to her apartment 17 times, had taken her to dinner at quiet places away from cameras, had spent his days off in her tiny living room, watching movies instead of at the exclusive clubs he used to frequent. He'd been photographed leaving her building twice, looking rumpled and happy, in a way that had sent the tabloids into a frenzy. And yesterday, when a reporter had ambushed him outside the recording studio and asked point-blank if he was in a relationship, he hadn't deflected or made a joke. He'd smiled, that real smile Bella was learning to recognize, and said, "Yeah, I am. And she's incredible." The internet had exploded. "Have you seen the headlines?" Bella asked, scrolling through her phone as the car pulled into traffic. "Marcus sent me some. My favorite is Rockstar reformed, Carter Hayes goes domestic. Makes me sound like a wild animal." "If the leather pants fit." He laughed, and the sound made her smile despite the chaos. "You love the leather pants." "I tolerate the leather pants." "Liar. You couldn't take your eyes off them at last night's show." He wasn't wrong. Watching Carter perform had always been electric. But now, knowing he was hers, that after the screaming crowds and the lights he'd come home to her apartment and kiss her breathless, it was intoxicating. "I have a confession," he said, his voice dropping lower. "I might have worn them specifically for you." "Carter, come to the studio. I want to show you something. I'm supposed to meet with the wardrobe team for next week's shows. Reschedule, please. This is important." Something in his voice made her pulse quicken. "What's going on?" "Just come, I'll send the address." The studio was in a nondescript building in Echo Park, the kind of place you'd drive past without a second glance. Security let Bella in, and she found Carter in Studio B, sitting at the piano with a guitar player she didn't recognize, and their producer, Joel. "Bella!" Carter's face lit up when he saw her. He crossed the room in quick strides and pulled her into a kiss that made Joel clear his throat pointedly. "We're still here, Hayes. Now give us a minute." Carter led Bella to the couch against the wall, his hands restless, nervous. "So I've been working on something for the new album. Okay? It's different, more personal than anything I've written before." He ran a hand through his hair. "I want you to hear it before anyone else." Her heart kicked up. "Carter, you don't have to." "I want to." He squeezed her hand. "Just listen, and be honest. If you hate it, tell me." He went back to the piano, and Joel and the guitar player took their positions. Carter's hands hovered over the keys for a moment, and Bella saw the vulnerability in his expression, the fear that she might not like what he'd created. Then he started to play. The melody was softer than his usual style, more intimate. And when he started singing, his eyes locked on hers. Bella felt her breath catch. "I built walls high as mountains, kept everyone at bay, told myself that being lonely was just the price I'd pay. Then you walked in with your clipboard and your knowing smile, and I've been falling ever since, been falling all this while." The chorus swelled, and Carter's voice cracked slightly on the words, raw with emotion. "You're the real thing in a world of fake, the steady ground when everything shakes. You see the man behind the name, love me despite the fortune and the fame. You're the real thing, and baby, you're making me believe that maybe I'm worth loving, that maybe I can be the man you need." Bella pressed her hand to her mouth, tears burning behind her eyes. The song laid bare everything Carter felt, every fear and hope and desperate wish. It was vulnerable and beautiful and so completely honest that it hurt. When the final chord faded, the room was silent. Carter stayed at the piano, watching her, waiting. "Well?" Joel asked carefully. "What do you think?" Bella stood and crossed to Carter, who rose to meet her. She cupped his face in her hands, seeing the uncertainty in his eyes, the fear that he'd revealed too much. "I think," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "that you just wrote the most beautiful song I've ever heard." Relief crashed over his features. "Yeah?" "Yeah." She kissed him, tasting salt from tears she hadn't realized she'd shed. "But Carter, you know you don't have to prove anything to me, right? I already believe in you." "I know, but I needed to put it into something permanent. So when the crowds are gone and the fame fades, you'll have this. You'll know how I felt right now, in this moment." His thumbs wiped away her tears. "How I'll always feel." "Jesus, Hayes," Joel muttered. "Way to make the rest of us look bad." But he was smiling, and so was the guitar player. And Bella realized the whole room was witnessing this moment, this declaration. "We're keeping this one," Joel said. "It's going to be the title track." "No." Carter's eyes never left Bella's. "This one's not for the album. This one's just for her. Carter, you can't just... Watch me." He pulled Bella close, resting his forehead against hers. "Some things are meant to stay private, to mean something just between two people." They recorded it anyway, just a simple version with Carter's voice and the piano, and he gave Bella the only copy. She listened to it that night in her apartment, Carter's arms around her, and cried all over again at the pure honesty of it. "I love you," he whispered against her hair, in case the song wasn't clear enough. "I love you too," she turned in his arms, "even when you're being dramatic and writing secret songs. Especially when I'm being dramatic and writing secret songs." The next weeks were a blur of tour preparation, interviews, and Bella learning to navigate the strange new reality of dating one of the world's most famous rock stars. The tabloids were relentless. Photographers followed them everywhere, and social media dissected every interaction. But through it all, Carter remained steady. He held her hand in public, kissed her backstage where anyone could see, and made it abundantly clear to anyone watching that Bella Turner wasn't a fling or a phase. She was it for him. The real test came during the first show of the tour in Seattle. Bella was in the wings as usual. But now the crew watched her differently, knowing she wasn't just the stylist anymore. Some were supportive, happy to see Carter settled. Others were skeptical, waiting for it to fall apart. Carter took the stage with his usual energy, but before launching into his first song, he did something unexpected. He grabbed the microphone and looked directly at Bella. "Before we start tonight, I need to say something. There's been a lot of speculation about my personal life lately, and I want to set the record straight." The crowd screamed, sensing something big. "I'm in love with an incredible woman who puts up with my crap, tells me when I'm wrong, and makes me want to be better, and I don't care who knows it." 20,000 people erupted. Bella felt her cheeks flame, but she couldn't stop smiling. "So this first song tonight is for her. Bella, this is for you." He launched into a new arrangement of one of his biggest hits, but he'd changed the lyrics, made them personal, made them about her. And as he sang, his eyes found hers across the stage, and Bella felt the last of her doubts melt away. This was real. He was real, and he was choosing her in front of the whole world. After the show, she found him in his dressing room, still high on adrenaline. "You're insane. You know that, right? Insane about you." He pulled her close. "Was it too much?" "I should have asked first, but..." She kissed him, cutting off the rambling. "It was perfect. You're perfect. I'm really not." "Perfect for me, then." She rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slowly return to normal. "Carter, what are we doing? Long term, I mean. This tour is 6 months. And then there's the next album, the next tour. How do we make this work?" "We figure it out. Together." He pulled back to look at her. "You could come with me on the tour, not as my stylist. Marcus can hire someone else for that. Just as you, my girlfriend. For 6 months? For as long as you'll have me." He took her hands. "Bella, I know it's fast. I know we've only been officially together for a few weeks. But I've spent 2 years falling for you. And now that I have you, I'm not letting go. So yes, come with me, see the world, experience the chaos, and I promise I'll make sure there's always quiet moments too. Just us." It was crazy, irresponsible. Her lease was up in 2 months anyway, and she'd been freelancing between Carter's gigs. There was nothing actually tying her to LA, and the thought of 6 months with him, of waking up in different cities but always in his arms, of being part of his life instead of just adjacent to it. It was terrifying and thrilling in equal measure. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'll come with you, but Carter..." She gripped his shirt. "I need you to promise me something. When it gets hard, when the distance and the pressure and the chaos get to be too much, we talk about it. We don't shut each other out. I promise." He sealed it with a kiss. No more walls, no more pretending, just us figuring it out as we go. The tour was everything Bella expected, and nothing like she'd imagined. The constant travel was exhausting, the lack of privacy was jarring, and watching Carter perform night after night without getting tired of it was a unique kind of magic. But the best parts were the quiet moments. Coffee in hotel rooms at sunrise. Carter playing guitar softly while she sketched design ideas. Late-night conversations about dreams and fears and futures. The way he always reached for her hand in crowds, anchoring himself to her. 4 months in a hotel room in Tokyo, Carter woke her at 3 a.m. "I want to show you something." They took a taxi to a neighborhood Bella didn't recognize, and Carter led her up to a rooftop just as the sun started to rise over the city. It was breathtaking, the sky turning gold and pink, the city sprawling endlessly below them. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "It is." But Carter wasn't looking at the view. He was looking at her. "Bella, I need to ask you something." Her heart stuttered. "Okay?" "When this tour ends, I don't want to go back to the way things were. The parties, the superficial relationships, the constant performance." He took her hands. "I want to build something real with you, a home, not just a house between tours, a life that's ours, not just mine with you along for the ride." "Carter, let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "I know I'm not easy. I'm moody and dramatic, and I'll probably write embarrassingly personal songs about you for the rest of my life. But I love you, more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it to you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "Carter Hayes, are you proposing to me on a rooftop in Tokyo at 3 a.m? Actually?" He opened the box to reveal a simple platinum band with a single diamond. "I'm asking if you'll think about it. I know it's fast. I know we should probably wait. But I also know I've never been more sure of anything in my life. So this is a promise ring. A promise that when you're ready, when the time is right, I'm going to ask you properly. And I'm going to spend every day until then being the kind of man who deserves a yes." Bella stared at the ring, then at Carter's face, seeing nothing but sincerity and hope and love so fierce it took her breath away. "You're ridiculous," she said, laughing through tears, "and dramatic, and absolutely insane. Is that a yes to the promise?" "It's a yes to everything." She held out her hand, watching as he slid the ring onto her right hand. "Ask me again in a year, properly, with a plan and a future, and all the romantic gestures you can muster." "And Carter?" "Yeah?" "The answer's going to be yes." He kissed her as the sun rose over Tokyo, and Bella thought about how far they'd come from that night in the venue hallway when he'd asked her to cancel her plans. How a moment of jealous impulsiveness had led to this, to love and promises, and a future she couldn't wait to build. "I can't believe I almost went on that date with Derek," she murmured against his lips. "Finance bro, Derek, who probably has a boring job and a boring life and would never write you secret songs? That's the one. Thank God for my jealous streak." She laughed. "Thank God for your inability to hide how you feel. Are you complaining?" "Never." She pulled him close. "Now take me back to the hotel and show me exactly how you feel. We have 3 hours before sound check." "Yes, ma'am." They left the rooftop as the city woke around them, two people who'd found something real in the chaos of fame and fortune. Carter kept his promise, asking her properly 11 months later in the same spot where they'd had their first date, with the Pacific spread out below them and forever stretching ahead. And when Bella said yes, of course she said yes, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Like every moment, every choice, every canceled plan had led them exactly here, to each other, to home. The tabloids called it a fairy tale, a Rockstar and his stylist living happily ever after. But Bella knew better. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was real. So what did you think? Was Carter's jealous demand the wake-up call they both needed? Or did he cross a line? Would you have canceled your plans if you were Bella or walked away from all that intensity? Think about it. A man who spent 2 years building walls suddenly tearing them all down because he couldn't stand the thought of losing you. Romantic or reckless? Sometimes the answer is both. And here's the real question. Do you believe people can actually change? Can a rock star used to living for the moment really build something lasting? Carter had his doubts. So did Bella. But they chose to try anyway. What about you? Have you ever taken a risk on someone who seemed like chaos personified? Someone who scared you and excited you in equal measure? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your stories. If their story resonated with you, if you felt that electric pull between Carter and Bella, if you found yourself rooting for them despite the odds, then you're exactly the kind of person we create these stories for. Hit that subscribe button. Help us reach 500 subscribers. Every single one matters. Because here's the truth. Behind every subscriber is someone who believes in love stories that feel real. Someone who wants the messy, complicated, beautiful truth of falling for another human being. Someone like you. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's scared to take a chance. Someone who's building walls when they should be opening doors. Sometimes a story is exactly what we need to remind us that taking risks on love is worth it. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep believing in the kind of love that makes you cancel your plans, tear down your walls, and say yes to forever. And seriously, drop a comment and let us know where you're listening from. We want to know where in the world our stories are reaching. Are you listening while commuting? During a lunch break? Late at night when you can't sleep? Tell us your story. We're listening.